Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to.
Not working?
They'd muted it before.
So obviously we're live on the radio right now, as well as streaming on YouTube. Obviously, if you're following us on YouTube, it's Ash Wednesday, so I am aware that there is a dirty, smudgy spot on my forehead.
It's supposed to be there.
It is meant to be there. But obviously we had a different team in before us, and they had altered all the settings on the equipment because we've recently had to reschedule some of our shows because it's a new term, and obviously this has caused a little bit of chaos with the planning and the management of shows.
Yeah, so sometimes when we come in and it's not to sort of my specific settings, I like to go around and I like to change everything. But it's not often, often it's not till I'm actually sitting here in the chair speaking where I realise, oh, this is not working.
Yeah, it's not great, but we're up and running, and you have chosen a really interesting case today. So it's one that I'm not actually that familiar with.
I wasn't familiar with it at all until my boyfriend said to me, oh hey, you should do this case. So I went and looked into it, and this, it's a bit crazy, but it's the Tamám Shud case for anyone who has heard of it. It's one of the most famous unsolved cases, probably Australia's most famous unsolved case, or also known as the mystery of the Somerton Man. It's an unsolved case of an unidentified man found dead at 6:30 a.m. on the 1st of December 1948 on the Somerton Park beach, just south of Adelaide, South Australia. The case is named after the Persian phrase Tamám Shud, meaning ended or finished, which was printed on a scrap of paper found months later. It took them months to find this in the fob pocket of the man's trousers.
Wait, hang on, sorry. It was in his pocket.
And it took them months to find it.
You see, this confused me because I've done first aid, and I've done first aid to a high level. You do check pockets if there's ID or medical. I can't understand not checking someone's pockets.
No. The scrap had been torn from the final page of a copy of the Rideout of Omar Khayyam, authored by 12th century poet Omar Khayyam. There's actually a lot of debate about whether he authored the book, because the book itself is a translation, or it's a collection of poems translated, and it could just be that the translator credited those poems to that particular writer. So the book itself is kind of interesting, and I don't think, because there's a lot that happens in this case, I don't think I have time to talk about the book itself, but if you did want to look up the book, you just look up Tamám Shud, and it kind of comes up with that. It's really interesting. Can recommend reading about that book.
Yeah, so it's a rabbit hole within the rabbit hole that is this case.
Yeah. Following a public appeal by police, the book from which the page had been torn was located. On the inside back cover, detectives were able to read, in indentations from handwriting, a local telephone number, another unidentified number, and a text that resembled an encrypted message.
Huh.
The text has not been deciphered or interpreted in a way that satisfies authorities on the case. So, yeah, that's weird, but it does lead a lot of people to believe that this, because it's all in the midst of the Cold War, it does lead a lot of people to believe that he was a spy of some sort, a lot like the Isabelle woman. He's a spy and he was poisoned. The case has been considered since the early stages of police investigation one of Australia's most profound mysteries. There's been intense speculation ever since regarding the identity of the victim, the cause of his death, and the events leading up to it. And if I go down...
Yeah, so today, obviously, because we haven't had time to get the setup, we're doing our notes off our phones, because usually we have the notes here printed out or on a laptop.
I actually prefer reading off my phone just because...
It doesn't make the click-clack sounds.
When I read off my laptop, I kind of look, because I have to have my laptop here, So the sound on the mic is worse than if I'm facing this way and I'm kind of looking towards Felicity. So,
yep, over here. Woo!
On the 1st of December 1948 at 6:30am, police were contacted after the body of a man was discovered on Somerton Beach near Glenleg, I can't pronounce that.
Apologies to Australia.
Sorry, Australia. About 11 kilometres southwest of Adelaide, South Australia. The man was found lying across the sand. There's part of me that doesn't want to read this because I hate what they've called it. Across from the crippled children's home, which was on the corner of the Esplanade and Bickford Terrace. He was lying back with his head resting against the seawall, his legs extended and his feet crossed. It was believed he had died while sleeping. An unlit cigarette was in the right collar of his coat. A search of his pockets, but not his trouser pockets.
Yes, not his actual pockets.
Revealed an unused second-class rail ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket from the city that could not be proved to have been used, a narrow aluminium American comb, a half-empty packet of juicy fruit chewing gum, an Army Club cigarette packet containing 7 cigarettes of a different brand, and a quarter-full box of Bryan and May matches.
There's nothing really stand out there.
No. Witnesses who came forward said that on the evening of the 30th of November they had seen an individual resembling the dead man lying on his back in the same spot and position near the crippled children's home. I hate that they call it that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with time, we kind of got more different language around that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is crypt theory, and there are people within the disability community who are reclaiming certain words. But yeah, it just is what it is. It's a choice. I've started calling things when people do something, I'm just like, well, that's a choice.
That's a choice.
That's a choice.
A couple who saw him around 7 p.m. noted that they saw him extend his right arm to its fullest extent and then drop it limply. Another couple who saw him from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m, during which time the streetlights had come on, recounted that they did not see him move during the half an hour in which he was in view.
Hang on. None of these people thought this was concerning.
Wait. Although they did have the impression that his position had changed, although they commented between themselves that it was quite odd that he was not reacting to the mosquitoes, they thought it more likely that he was drunk or asleep and thus did not investigate further. One of the witnesses told police she observed a man looking down at the sleeping man from the top of the steps that led to the beach. Witnesses said the body was in the same position when the police viewed it. And then
I have so many
there's
questions.
one more witness. Another witness came forward in 1959 and reported to the police that he and 3 others had seen a well-dressed man carrying another man on his shoulders along Somerton Beach the night before the body was found. A police report was made by Detective Donna Hunt.
Wait, they waited like 11 years to report that?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is classic 1950s crime solving. According to the pathologist, the man was of Britisher appearance. I didn't know that was a descriptor.
Sorry.
And thought to be aged around 40 to 45. He was in top physical condition, and he was 80 centimetres, 5 foot 11 inches tall, with grey eyes, fair to ginger coloured hair.
Wait.
Slightly grey around the temples. I'm sorry, I'm doing
80
that.
centimetres? Did you say he was 80 centimetres?
180.
Oh, right, okay, because I was like, then you did it in 5 foot, and I was like, I am very confused right now, so hang on. Sorry, go back. Can you do that again? Because I got very confused.
5 foot 11 inches.
Okay, because you said, I heard the 5 foot 11, and then I heard the 80 centimetres, and I was all like, nope, not following.
With broad shoulders and a narrow waist, hands and nails that showed no signs of manual labour, big and little toes that met in a wedge shape, like those of a dancer or someone who wore boots with pointed toes.
Sorry. I love this description.
This is why I'm doing it in a little voice. And pronounced higher calf muscles consistent with people who regularly wore boots or shoes with high heels or performed ballet. He was dressed in a white shirt with a red, white and blue tie, brown trousers, socks and shoes, a brown knitted pullover and a fashionable grey and brown double-breasted jacket reportedly of American tailoring. All labels on his clothes had been removed and he had no hat.
Ooh, the
Or
labels issue is very much like the Isabelle woman.
He was clean-shaven and carried no identification, which led police to believe he had committed suicide. Finally, his dental records were not able to be matched to any known person. There you go. That's my impression of the pathologist on this case.
That is very Isabelle woman.
Yeah.
It's very similar there.
It is very, very similar. They're quite far apart in timings, though.
They are, but I mean, obviously, maybe we don't know the inner workings of the spy world.
Yeah, to be fair.
Because who's to say that maybe the cigarettes that they found weren't, you know, the sort of 007 secret cigarettes that like shoot things.
The important thing about the hat is it's very unusual for a man in 1948 to not have a hat. And also, I like that they go into so much detail about his feet and his legs.
I know. Spy ballerina.
Spy ballerina. I mean, Black Widow was a ballerina.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think maybe this man's just a dancer who got on the wrong side. An autopsy was conducted and the pathologist estimated the time of death at around 2 a.m. on the 1st of December. So he was actually alive
when he wasn't moving.
Witnesses saw him. The autopsy also showed. Now this does come back in a bit, but it sounds really boring when I tell you that the man's last meal was a pasty eaten 3 or 4 hours before death. But tests failed to reveal any foreign substance in the body. The pathologist, Dr. Dwyer, concluded, "I am quite convinced the death could not have been natural. The poison I suggested was barbiturate or some soluble hypnotic." Although poisoning remained the prime suspicion, the pasty was not believed to be the source of the poison. So the pasty is not poisoned. That's the important thing about that. Other than that, the coroner was unable to reach a conclusion as to the man's identity, cause of death, or whether the man seen alive at Somerton Beach on the evening of the 30th of November was in fact the same man, as nobody had seen his face at the time. The body was embalmed on the 10th of December 1948 after the police were unable to get a positive identification. Police said this was the first time they knew such action was massive action was needed.
So when you say massive action, do you
They
mean...
go on a big search.
Oh, because they can't find anything.
Yeah.
So basically, it's an area where there's maybe not been such big crimes or mysterious crimes. Maybe just like, you know, oh, Johnny down the road pickpocketed somebody or shoplifted something and that's the biggest crime.
I mean, I do feel like the fact that he has no match to any dental records is kind of concerning.
I mean, well, the Isabelle woman had really interesting dental records too.
She did.
I have heard of people who have filed their teeth to make them hard to recognise, which sounds horrifying.
That does sound horrifying. I've just realised that my teeth, unless you can find my dental records, it would be really hard to recognise. They'd be easy to recognise if you're like, right, this is what we're looking for. But if you didn't know that I have a genetic tooth condition, you'd be there like, why is there a mixture of adult and baby teeth in here? I don't understand.
Well, that might help narrow it down.
Yeah, but obviously I have a genetic tooth condition, so I mean, people could be convinced that I just stuck baby teeth in place of my normal teeth. If they can never figure out my identity, boom.
I've always wondered about dental records. I heard, and the only reason it's close on my mind is I was flying back from my friend's wedding recently, and they were talking about the brace position on the plane. And I remember someone telling me that the brace position is solely to ensure that your dental records are preserved, which is really grim. I don't even know if that's true.
It's also, the seat belts on an aeroplane don't actually protect you. They're so in the aim that your body might stay attached to your seat so they can identify you by seat number.
That's really grim.
Yeah. A lot of things that are on a plane are actually for, right, we need to be able to identify these bodies after she's gone down. Because when she's going down, she's staying going down.
Ooh. Okay. That's all a bit grim. Lots.
Yeah.
But back on topic to our mysterious man.
Back on topic. So, then a little while later, they found his suitcase.
Oh.
On the 14th of January 1949, staff at the Adelaide railway station discovered a brown suitcase with its label removed. which had been checked into the station cloakroom after 11 a.m. on the 30th of November 1948. They've left this unattended bag for such a long time.
You wouldn't get away with that today. They'd be like, there's a suspicious bag. It's again, like in the airport, it's all like, if your luggage is left unattended, it will be removed and basically exploded.
It was believed that the suitcase was owned by the man found on the beach. I don't know where they get this from. In the case, there were a red checked dressing gown, size 7 red felt pair of slippers, nice matching dressing gowns.
Maybe the slippers fit his feet, maybe.
Maybe, but a lot of people could be size 7.
Well, hang on. Is this size 7 like, because obviously European shoe sizes are different from UK shoe sizes, how we measure them. The thing, size 7 seems quite small for a person who's born male's feet.
I mean, I think it's size 7 UK.
Okay, because like when I think of size 7, I think that's maybe a little big for people who are born female, but not necessarily unusual. But it's definitely on the smaller end for people who are born male.
I have size 7 feet.
I'm a 4. So like, I used to be a 5, and then I have osteoporosis, and so I've lost like 2 inches from my height, and my feet shrunk. But on the plus side, my sister has great shoes, so I can now steal them.
One of my friends who's a guy has size 5 feet.
Oh wow!
So I mean,
I've never heard of that, but I suppose it is possible.
And I was saying to my boyfriend the other day, and we were looking at our feet, and whilst his feet are like just bigger, mine are technically longer. I have really long but really slender feet. So I fit size 7 shoes and he's like size 8, 8.5. But my feet are actually longer if you look at them.
Huh. I don't know, I've just always assumed that people who are born male at birth would have larger feet. Because like male shoe sizes are large.
Feet. I'm sorry, I had to get that in there. So back to the case. 4 pairs of underpants, pyjamas, shaving items, a light brown pair of trousers with sand in the cuffs, an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife cut down into a short, sharp instrument, a pair of scissors with sharpened points, a small square of zinc thought to have been used as a protective sheath for the knife and scissors, and a stenciling brush used by third officers on merchant ships for stenciling cargo. That's a lot of weird things.
I'm just wondering about the knife that's been sort of shorter. I mean, what was that used for?
I don't know.
It just seems weird.
Stabby. Close distance stabby.
I can't imagine it would have been very sharp.
I mean, it says it's sharpened. So. Also in the suitcase this is how they identified it was him. There was a thread card of Barber brand orange wax thread of an unusual type, not available in Australia. It was the same that had been used to repair the lining in a pocket of the trousers the dead man was wearing. All identification marks on the clothes had been removed, but police found the name T. Keane on a tie, Keane on a laundry bag, and Keane without the last E on a singlet, along with 3 dry cleaning marks, 1171/7, 4393/7, and 3053/7. Police believe that whoever removed the clothing tags either overlooked these 3 items or purposely left the Keane tags on the clothes, knowing Keane was not the dead man's name.
Well, hang on. So, are we saying that the dead man didn't put his luggage there? Because maybe he just accidentally overlooked those labels and it is his luggage, and he checked it in because he was just taking a detour and he was coming back and he didn't want to have his hands full of luggage.
I mean,
I hate travelling with luggage.
Fair, but then it goes on. A search concluded that there was no T. Keane missing in any English-speaking country, and a nationwide circulation of the dry cleaning marks also proved fruitless. So there was nothing from that. In fact, all that could be garnered from the suitcase was that the front gusset and feather stitching on a coat found in the case indicated that it had been manufactured in the United States. The coat had not been imported, indicating the man had been to the United States or bought the coat of someone of a similar size who had been. He has an American comb in his pocket. I think it's pretty safe to say that
He's been
man
in
has
America.
probably been to America, if not is a US national.
Yeah, and I suppose given the time period, they probably, if he was doing spying, the US is never going to admit that he is their person.
Exactly. To continue, police checked incoming train records and believed the man I can't speak today, arrived at the Adelaide railway station by overnight train from either Melbourne, Sydney or Port Augusta. They speculated he had showered and shaved at the adjacent city bars. There was no bar's ticket on his body, before returning to the train station to purchase a ticket for the 10:50 a.m. train to Henley Beach, which, for whatever reason, he missed or did not catch. He immediately checked his suitcase at the station cloakroom before leaving the station and catching the city bus to Glenelg. Although not named City Bath, the centre was not a public bathing facility, but a public swimming pool. Oh, it is named City Bath, but it's not a public bathing. The railway station bathing facilities were adjacent to the station cloakroom, which itself was adjacent to the city's southern exit onto North Terrace. The city baths on King William Street were accessed from the station's north exit via Lane Way. There is no record of the station's bathroom facilities being unavailable on the day he arrived. So he needlessly went to the city baths and came back, which suggests that there's more to do with those baths than we think.
He's very mysterious.
He's a mysterious man.
I do like it. It does cross over so much with the Isabelle woman case. And I mean, we have covered the Isabelle woman case. We did it because obviously we have a short time period in which we cover these cases. And I would definitely recommend people who are interested in this case to consider looking at the Isabelle woman. But I mean, there are so many theories. And she was also thought to be a dancer due to her legs.
Maybe dancers are spies.
Well,
that's my conspiracy theory.
It probably could be quite an easy way to travel about, actually, if you were a dancer, maybe moving from town to town, show to show, because you would obviously constantly be moving, so it wouldn't be suspicious.
Yeah, dancers are spies, there you go. An inquest into the death, conducted by Coroner Thomas Erskine Cleland, commenced a few days after the body was found, but was adjourned on the 17th until the 17th of June 1949. The investigating pathologist John Burton Cleland, I can't pronounce their name, re-examined the body and made a number of discoveries. He noted that the man's shoes were remarkably clean and appeared to have been recently polished, rather than being in a state expected of the shoes of the man who had apparently been wandering around Glenelg all day. He added that this evidence fitted with the theory that the body might have been brought to Somerton Beach after the man's death, accounting for the lack of evidence of vomiting and convulsions, which are the two main physiological reactions to poison.
I mean, there was the people who 11 years later said they saw someone carrying a man. But the others thought he was alive.
And in the initial examination it revealed he hadn't died until 2 a.m. that day.
Yeah.
But, as it was said earlier, they can't be sure that the man that they saw on the beach and the dead man are the same man, because the man they saw on the beach, they couldn't see his face.
Well, wasn't the man on the beach carrying someone?
No, I mean the man that they saw lying down on the beach.
Oh, okay. Although he was in the same position, so...
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty much the same dude. Cleland speculated that none of the witnesses could positively identify the man they saw the previous night as being the same person discovered the next morning. There remained a possibility that the man had died elsewhere and had been dumped. He stressed this was purely speculation, as all the witnesses believed this was definitely the same person, as the body was in the same place and lying in the same distinctive position. He also found that there was no evidence as to who the deceased was. Kendrick Stanton Hicks, Professor of Physiology and Pharmacology at the University of Adelaide, testified that a group of drugs, variants of the drug variants of a drug in that group he called number 1, and in particular number 2, were extremely toxic in relatively small oral dose, that it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to identify even if it had been suspected in the first instance.
Okay, so that would maybe show why it didn't show up.
Exactly. He gave the coroner a piece of paper with the names of the two drugs, which was entered into Exhibit C18. The names were not released to the public until the 1980s, and at the time they were quite easily procurable by the ordinary individual. From a chemist, without the need to give reason for the purchase. The drugs were later publicly identified as digitalis and ouabain.
Oh, I've heard of digitalis.
Yeah, both of which are cardinalose type cardiac glycosides. He noted the only fact not found in relation to the body was evidence of vomiting. He then stated its absence was not unknown, but he could not make a frank conclusion without it. Hicks stated that if the death occurred 7 hours after the man was last seen to move, it would imply a massive dose that could still have been undetectable. It was noted that the movement seen by witnesses at 7 p.m. could have been the last convulsion preceding death.
Ooh, so the arm went up and then down.
Yeah, that could have been
a convulsion.
A convulsion, and then he died.
Oh, that's quite grim.
Early into the inquiry, Cleland stated, "I would be prepared to find that he had died from poison. That the poison was probably a glucoside, and that it was not accidentally administered. But I cannot say whether it was administered
in the pasty
by the deceased himself or by some other person. Despite these findings, he could not determine the cause of death of the Somerton man." Cleland remarked that if the body had been carried to its final resting place, then all the difficulties would disappear. After the inquest, a plaster cast was made of the man's head and shoulders. The lack of success in determining the identity and cause of the death of the Somerton man led authorities to call it an unparalleled mystery and believed that the cause of death might never be known. And I think that's a good place to take a break because I've stopped being able to speak.
Yeah, so we are going to take a break, which means if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to mute and put up our little logo for a minute or two.
We don't want copyright.
Yeah, we don't want YouTube to come after us. So we will see you guys soon.
See you in a bit. Ready? Hello and welcome back to Things That Go Bump in the Night. Today we are discussing the Tamám Shud case.
Yeah, and obviously there's so much to do that we're really only scratching the surface because there are so many twists and turns in this case.
Yeah, so many twists and
It
turns.
deserves its own series.
So, around the same time as the inquest, we were on to the relevance of Tamám Shud. A tiny piece of rolled up paper with the words Tamám Shud printed on it was found in the fob pocket sewn within the dead man's trouser pocket. So it was a secret pocket. Public library officials called in to translate the text identified as the phrase meaning ended or finished, found on the last page of the Rideout of Khayyam. The paper's verso side was blank. Police conducted an Australia-wide search to find a copy of the book that had a similarly blank verso. A photograph of the scrap of paper was released to the press. Following a public appeal by police, the copy of the Rideout from which the page had been torn was located. A man showed police in 1941 an edition of Edward Fitzgerald's 1859 translation of the Rideout, published by Whitcomb and Tombs in Christchurch, New Zealand. And obviously there's a lot of stuff to do with that. I did mention it earlier in the programme. The book has its own issues, and if you're interested in those, then I would definitely look them up. But there's a lot of debate over who actually wrote the poems and whether some of them were invented by the translator themselves.
I have gone down a rabbit hole when it comes to this specific book. Because it looks like the book could be the key to everything.
On the inside back cover of the book, detectives identified indentations from handwriting. These included a telephone number, an unidentified number, and a text that resembled an encrypted message. According to statements by the police, the book was found in the rear footwell of a car at about the same time that the body of the unidentified man had been found. There is some uncertainty about the circumstances under which the book was found. One newspaper article refers to the book being found about a week or two before the body was found. Former South Australian police detective Jerry Felters, who dealt with the matter as a cold case, reports that the book was found just after that man was found on the beach at Somerton. The timing is significant as the man is presumed, based on the suitcase, to have arrived in Adelaide the day before he was found on the beach. If the book was found 1 or 2 weeks before, it suggests that the man had visited previously or had been in Adelaide for a longer period. Most accounts state the book was found in an unlocked car parked in Jetty Road, Glenlegg, either on the rear floor well or on the back seat.
And the book itself is really hard to find. So if you wanted to get a copy of this book, the actual the version of this book is nearly impossible. So no one has managed to find a copy that exactly matches the first edition copy that this apparently was. Everything else is slightly different. So like if it is the key to like the code or whatever, you just can't get a copy of it.
The idea of the book being used in this is really interesting because the theme is that one should live life to the fullest and have no regrets when it ends. The poem's subject led police to theorise that the man had committed suicide by poison, although there was no other evidence tracing back to that theory. The book was missing the words Tamám Shud on the last page, which had a blank reverse. A microscopic test indicated that the piece of paper was from the page torn from the book. Also, in the back of the book, there were I've said this.
I was looking a little more at the autopsy there, and I found out that he had some rare genetic traits that are only present in 1 to 2% of the human population. And obviously you'd think this would make it easier to find him, because obviously the Isabelle woman as well had some really cool dental work. But if you think about it, 1% is still millions and millions of people when you think of the overall population of the world.
This is why I think even with my tiny teeth, they wouldn't be able to positively identify me.
Well, was it the coroner said that this guy's spleen was really, really big, like 3 times bigger than the average spleen, and that his liver was really damaged. His liver was really damaged, which could have been from the pills, the poison that he was given. But you know, it's hard to say for sure. And yeah.
So code experts were called in at the time to decipher the lines, but were unsuccessful. In 1978, following a request from ABC TV journalist Stuart Littlemore, Department of Defense cryptographers analysed the handwritten text. The cryptographers reported that it would be impossible to provide a satisfactory answer if the text were an encrypted message. Its brevity meant that it had insufficient symbols from which a clear meaning could not be extracted. And the text could be a meaningless product of a disturbed mind. So, yeah, a lot of people think he just killed himself.
I was looking, because if he was a spy, they're obviously going to want you to think that maybe that's the case and not investigate, because when we were talking about this, there's lots of people who were close to the case who have since died. So there was a man called Keith Magnuson who was meant to go and identify the body, and before he could do that, he and his 2-year-old son Clive were kidnapped and they were dumped at Largs Bay Sandhills, and Clive was found dead in a sack next to his father, who was unconscious, who then ended up being admitted to a psychiatric hospital because he couldn't cope with it. And other people got threatened, and also when it comes to the body, we talked during the break there about why is nobody doing DNA testing, and that's because apparently anyone who petitions to get the body exhumed has been denied. And they destroyed evidence. Apparently they've destroyed most of the evidence. The original book, it doesn't exist anymore, and they burnt the suitcase. Suspicious.
And actually, there's some more stuff that I will be talking about in a second that has hindered future investigation. So a telephone number was also found at the back of the book belonging to a nurse named Jessica Ellen. Oh wait, I need to move. I still have a very painful back, so I need to keep moving. To a nurse named Jessica Ellen Joe Thompson, 1921 to 2007, who lived in Molesey, Glenlegg, about 400 metres north of the location where the body was found. When she was interviewed by police, Thompson says she did not know the dead man or why he would have her phone number and chose to visit her suburb on the night of his death. However, she also reported that at the same time in late 1948, an unidentified man had attempted to visit her and asked the next door neighbour about her. In his book on the case, Jerry Feltus stated that when he interviewed Thompson in 2002, I almost said 1922, that was a very long time ago, that was before the man died, he found that she was either being evasive or she just did not wish to talk about it. Feltus believed Thompson knew the Somerton Man's identity. Thompson's daughter, Kate, in a television interview in 2014 with 60 Minutes, also said that she believed her mother knew the dead man. In 1949, Jessica Thompson requested that the police not keep a permanent record of her name or release her details to third parties, as it would be embarrassing and harmful to her reputation to be linked to such a case. The police agreed, a decision that hampered later investigation. In news, media, books and other discussions of the case, Thompson was frequently referred to by various pseudonyms. Jerry Feltus claimed he was given permission by Thompson's family to disclose her names and that of her husband, Prosper Thompson. Nevertheless, the names Feltus used in his book were pseudonyms. Feltus also stated that her family did not know of her connection with the case, and he agreed not to disclose her identity or anything that might reveal it. Her real name was considered important as the possibility exists that it may be the decryption key for the purported code.
Oh.
When she was shown the plaster cast bust of the dead man by Detective Sergeant Lean, Thompson said she could not identify the person detected. According to Lean, he described her reaction upon seeing the cast as completely taken aback, to the point of giving the appearance she was about to faint. In an interview many years later, Paul Lawson, the technician who made the cast and was present when Thompson viewed it, noted that she was looking at the bus. After looking at the bus, she immediately looked away and would not look at it again. There's more about this woman, but I'm going to pause for you to say something so I can drink.
Well, I was just looking at the fact that obviously we've been comparing this case to the Is That Woman a little bit, and I'm not sure if you're going to be covering this, but there is a similar case that involves the exact same book.
I might not cover it, but now that I know it exists, maybe I also will cover it.
Well, let me do a quick overview. So in 1945, 3 years before the Somerton Man was found near Adelaide, a man from Singapore named George Marshall was found dead in Sydney, Australia, with an open copy of the Rideout on his chest, and it was reported that he died by poisoning. It is generally accepted that Marshall's death was suicide, but homicide isn't out of the question, especially considering that he died extremely close to the location that Jessica Thompson claimed to have given Alf Vauxhall her copy of the Rideout only 2 months before the exchange. So Alf is linked obviously to our nurse Thompson, and was it when they she was adamant that obviously she didn't know the dead man, but she had claimed to have given a copy of this book to a man called Alf Vauxhall in 1945. So police then went to him to see if they thought maybe this was the man who was dead on the beach, but obviously he was still alive and his book was fully intact, so there was no rips to his copy of the book. But it's kind of interesting, just sort of the links that between all these different deaths and people. They do say there's like 6 degrees of separation from everyone, but it's just a bit strange that, you know, he died in the location where she gave this book to someone, and it's the book that then shows up in all these murders.
That was actually the bit that I was about to say.
Ooh, sorry.
You stole that from me. As a result of their conversation with Thompson, police suspect, and then it's on to Vauxhall, and Vauxhall's still alive. So then, there's some spy theories. At least 2 sites relatively close to Adelaide were of interest to spies: Radium Hill uranium mine and the Woomera test range, an Anglo-Australian military research facility. The man's death coincided with a reorganisation of Australian security agencies, which would culminate the following year with the foundation of the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, or ASIO. That's actually quite a cool name. This would be followed by a crackdown on Soviet espionage in Australia, which was revealed by intercepts of Soviet communications to be under the Venona project. Another theory concerns Alf Vauxhall, who was reportedly involved in intelligence work during and immediately after World War II. Alf Vauxhall comes back. In 1978, a television interview with Stuart Littlemore asks, "Mr. Vauxhall, you had been working, hadn't you, in an intelligence unit before you met this young woman, Jessica Harkness," which is her maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
"Did you talk to her about that at all?" In reply, Vauxhall says no. And when asked if Harkness could have known, Vauxhall replies, "Not unless somebody else told her." When Littlemore suggests in the interview that there may have been an espionage connection with the dead man in Adelaide, Vauxhall replies, "That it's quite a melodramatic thesis, isn't it?" Vauxhall's Army Service record recognises that he served initially in the 4th Water Transport Company before being seconded to the North Australia Observer Unit, a special operations unit, and that during his time with the NAOU, Vauxhall rose rapidly in rank, being promoted from Lance Corporal to Lieutenant within 3 months.
Huh. That's quite quickly.
That is quite quickly. And now we get on to post-inquest, because I'm reaching the end of the period of time in which I can talk. There is a lot more in this case. If you are interested, definitely look it up. By the time I've got through all the post-inquest stuff, I think and the reported identifications, I think I'm going to want to stop speaking.
Yeah.
In 1949, the body of an unknown man was buried in Adelaide's West Terrace Cemetery, where the Salvation Army conducted the service. The South Australian Grandstand Bookmakers Association paid for the service to save the man from a pauper's burial. Nice. Years after the burial, flowers began appearing on the grave. Police questioned a woman seen leaving the cemetery, but she claimed she knew nothing of the man. About the same time, Ina Harvey, the receptionist from the Strathmore Hotel opposite the Adelaide railway station, revealed that the strange man had stayed in room 21 or 23 for a few days around the time of death, checking out on the 30th of November 1948. She recalled he was English-speaking and only carrying a small black case, not unlike one a musician or doctor might carry. When an employee looked inside the case, he told Harvey he had found in. When an employee looked inside the case, he told Harvey he had found an object inside the case he described as looking like a needle.
Huh.
So
For poisoning someone?
poisoning yourself.
Oh, I wonder why you would do. But maybe be on medication that needs a needle.
Yeah. What I kind of think is there's a part of me that thinks it was suicide, but like a forced suicide.
Oh, as in pressured into it.
Yeah.
That's kind of even sadder.
Yeah, like pressured by the spy community.
But why would they pressure someone into doing? Why wouldn't they just kill that person? Would that not have been easier?
I mean, I guess it's easier if they actually kill themselves than try and make it look like they killed themselves.
Yeah, but obviously now it's just led to more questions.
Yes.
I feel like this hasn't really...
They didn't work out for them.
Not really, not at all. I mean, it's all over the internet. The odds are that hopefully someday it will be solved, but I'm just really stuck on the fact that like they won't exhume the body.
Yeah, that is...
That confuses me. And so obviously they did bury him, and apparently someone has been leaving flowers on the grave.
Yeah, for the first few years, they don't know who it is though. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, it must be someone who has a connection to them, but it could just be someone who, like, out of respect is like, okay, no one else is going to do this,
Yeah.
so I'm going to do this.
It could be. But I mean, wants it to not be and to be something more exciting. But
So,
yeah.
Back to the case. On the 22nd November 1959, it was reported that one E.B. Collins, an inmate of New Zealand's, I can't pronounce this, prison, claimed to know the identity of the dead man. There have been numerous unsuccessful attempts in the 70 years since its discovery to crack the letters found in the rear of the book, including efforts by military and naval intelligence, mathematicians, and amateur code crackers. In 2004, retired detective Jerry Feltus suggested in a Sunday Mail article that the final line could stand for the initials of "It's time to move to South Australia, Molesey Street. The former nurse lived in Molesey Street, which is the main road through Glenelg."
That seems like a really weird thing to write in code. It's time to move
to Molesey Street.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why wouldn't you just write down Molesey Street, like the address? Why would you write "It's time to move"?
It's time to go to Molesey Street, boys.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a stretch.
A 2014 analysis by computational linguist John Relic strongly supports the theory that the letters consist of the initials of some English text, but finds no match for these in a large survey of literature, and concludes that the letters were likely written as some form of shorthand, not as code, and the original text can likely never be determined.
Oh.
Boom.
But if it was shorthand, because like if I was to sort of like an acronym, but that's a really long acronym, I would never remember that.
It's time to move to Molesey Street, that's...
Yeah, I don't know, it's sad it's sad that someone, obviously, because this person would have had a family of some description. And friends.
Interestingly, the man who made the plaster cast of the body later refused to answer a question on whether anyone had positively identified the body.
Oh.
So this gets more.
Well, people were threatened. There were threats sent to people who could have identified the body, such as the person who ended up in the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, and then there's just a lot of stuff about another few people saying this is definitely what happened. But South Australian Police Historical Society holds the bust, which contains strands of the man's hair. This is not very well made bust. Any further attempts, so they could use that
For DNA.
Any further attempts to identify the body that have been hampered by the embalming formaldehyde, having destroyed much of the man's DNA.
Wait. His body has been... Oh, wow, okay.
Other key evidence no longer exists, such as the brown suitcase which was destroyed in 1986. In addition, witness statements have disappeared from the police file over the years.
But surely you could get DNA out of bones or something like that.
I mean, you could get the DNA out of the hair that's in the car.
Bust, yeah.
I don't understand why they didn't do that. I guess.
It's all very, very strange. I'm looking at an image of, like, they say this is the embalmed image, and it's very strange looking.
I'm looking at the plaster cast.
His hair is all gone in this image, which is sad.
That is sad. A number of possible identifications have been proposed over the years. An Adelaide newspaper, The Advisor, on reporting the discovery of the body, gave the possible identification as E.C. Johnson, about 45, of Arthur Street, Peniam.
That's very specific.
The following day, Johnson identified himself at the police station.
He's like, I am not dead.
I am still alive. Please don't say I am alivened.
Oh, imagine hearing that you were dead in the news. That would be really awful.
Imagine your family hearing it before you have a chance to contact them. Like, no, I'm not dead. The news thinks that I'm still alive. The same day, another Adelaide newspaper, The News, it's a nice, simple, clean title, published a photograph of the dead man on its front page, leading to additional calls from members of the public about the possible identity of the dead man. By 4th of December, police announced that the man's fingerprints were not on South Australian police records, forcing them to look further afield. On the 5th of December, the Advertiser reported that police were searching through military records after a man claimed to have had a drink with a man resembling the dead man at a hotel in Glenlake on the 13th of November. During the drinking session, the mystery man supposedly produced a military pension card bearing the name Solomonson.
I don't really know what to make of that.
I don't know, sorry, I'm being harassed about whether I want my big bag brought to my room. Like, no, I don't. I said that earlier today. I'm in the middle of the show, thank you.
Well, see, I'm looking at what appears to be a photograph of where the body was found, but I'm wondering if it's a recreation because the photo seems to be too good quality.
It's probably a recreation.
But the thing is, it still looks suitably old because the problem is some people do add colour to photographs. So it's like a sort of photograph that isn't quite coloured, but it's still got some colour in it.
It's sort of there, but not.
The whole thing is it's just sad. No matter how I look at it, it's sad. And I do think the destruction of the evidence is very suspicious.
There have been a lot of positive identifications of the body. There's been, the most interesting one is in 2011, Adelaide woman contacted biological anthropologist Massage Henenberg.
I'm an anthropologist.
About an identification card of H.C. Reynolds that she had found in her father's possession. The card, a document issued in the United States to a foreign seaman during World War I, was given to Henenberg in October 2011 for comparison of the ID photograph with that of the Somerton Man.
I have to admit, this image we were looking at it. He's 18 in this image. It's a person who is apparently British, and obviously they've gone to America, so that would explain the American clothing, the American comb, and the fact that I think, wasn't it the inquest said that he was British-ish?
Yeah, he
whatever
was
that.
Britisher, I believe, are the direct words, in appearance.
I don't really know what British in appearance means. Genuinely confused by this.
I guess if you're Irisher in appearance, I'd be Britisher in appearance.
Could you really tell? I don't think you
No, we just look like white people.
Yeah. I said European maybe, but then Americans, you know what? I can't. This is a whole separate argument or debate. I just feel like he just looks like a human, and I don't understand this assumption of nationality based off, because like he could very easily be French, or I don't know, Russian, or from somewhere.
They couldn't actually find any records relating to an H.C. Reynolds in the US National Archives, the UK National Archives, and the Australian War Memorial Research Centre.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's a spy.
They did believe the ID card could have belonged to a Horace Charles Reynolds, a Tasmanian resident who died in 1953 and therefore could not have been the Somerton Man. So, that is the end of my deep dive into it. Obviously, there's so much more. By the end of February of 1949, there had been 8 separate identifications of the man, of 8 different people. So that's a lot.
Yeah. That is... I don't know. The whole thing just leaves me feeling dissatisfied.
Yeah, I have to admit I have a similar feeling, but it's just, that's all we're going to get for now. The case remains unsolved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's such a long case, there's so much detail. You were finding things that I hadn't even found. So it is worth, if you are interested in it, looking at it independently, because there's a lot that I could not fit into an hour show.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is 7:15. We did start a little later, about 6:15, so it is now our full hour, and I guess it's time to sign off.
Yep.
So, without further ado, stay curious.
And stay spooky.
We'll see you next week.